Before the sun fully set, the most powerful object in Kola village vanished and the thief was someone no one expected. Watch what Anansi does next, because if he fails, the village could lose everything. It's short, suspenseful, and teases both mystery and stakes, making people stay to find out what happens. The sun was setting over Kola village, painting the sky orange and pink. In the center of the village stood a large baobab tree, and beneath it sat the most important thing in all of Kola, the sacred drum. This drum was no ordinary drum. It was covered in ancient symbols and decorated with colorful beads that sparkled in the light. When the drum was played, it brought rain for the crops. When it was silent, the village knew peace. The elders said the drum held the heartbeat of their ancestors, and without it, Kola village would lose its way. Anansi the spider lived at the edge of the village in a small mud house with a thatched roof. He was not like the other spiders who spent their days spinning webs and catching flies. Anansi was clever. Some said too clever. He loved riddles and tricks, and he could talk his way out of any trouble. The children loved his stories, but the adults often shook their heads at his mischief. Still, everyone respected Anansi's mind. When problems came to Kola village, people whispered, perhaps Anansi can help. One morning, the village woke to a terrible sound. It was Chief Obio, the village leader, crying out in distress. People ran from their homes, wrapping cloth around themselves as they rushed to the baobab tree. What they saw made their sink. The sacred drum was gone. Only the wooden stand remained, empty and sad-looking. The colorful cloth that usually covered the drum lay on the ground, torn and dirty. Chief Obio was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair that showed his wisdom. But now those eyes were filled with tears. The drum is stolen, he cried. Without it, our ancestors cannot hear us. Without it, the rains may not come. Without it, Kola village will fall into darkness. The people gasped and began to talk all at once, their voices rising in fear and confusion. Mothers held their children close. Fathers clenched their fists in anger. The elders sat down heavily, looking older than ever before. Anansi heard the commotion from his house. He stretched his 8 legs and yawned. Another day, another problem in Kola, he said to himself. But when he heard about the sacred drum, even Anansi felt worried. He scurried on his tiny legs toward the crowd, keeping low and listening carefully to what everyone was saying. Some blamed travelers from other villages. Others thought it was a curse from angry spirits. One old woman even suggested that the drum had walked away on its own, tired of being beaten. Chief Obio raised his hands for silence. We must search everywhere, he commanded. Look in every house, every hut, every corner of this village. The drum must be found before the next full moon, or terrible things will happen to Kola. The village guards, strong young men with spears, immediately began the search. They went from house to house, looking under beds, inside clay pots, behind grain storage, and even up in the rafters. But they found nothing, not a single clue about where the sacred drum had gone. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Anansi watched and thought. He noticed something the others did not see. Near the empty stand where the drum once sat, there were marks in the dust. They were footprints, but they were strange. One foot seemed heavier than the other, making a deeper mark. And there was something else, tiny drops of palm oil leading away from the baobab tree. Anansi followed the drops with his eyes. They led toward the forest, past the yam field and cassava plants, toward the dark trees where few people went. That night, as the village gathered around fires to talk about the stolen drum, Anansi made a plan. He knew that whoever stole the drum would not be able to keep it hidden forever. Sacred objects have a way of calling out, of making themselves known. He also knew that a thief who steals something so important must be very desperate or very greedy. I will catch this thief, Anansi whispered to himself. But I must be patient. I must be clever. I must think like a spider spinning a web. The next morning, Anansi did something surprising. He went to the village square and announced loudly that he was very tired. This business with the drum has exhausted me, he said, yawning dramatically. I think I will sleep for many days. Do not disturb me, no matter what happens. The villagers looked at each other with confusion. Why would Anansi sleep when the village needed help? But Anansi just smiled his spider smile and went back to his house. He closed his door and window shutters, making it look like he was settling in for a long rest. But Anansi was not sleeping at all. He was preparing a trap. He knew that the thief was someone from the village because only someone who knew about the drum's importance would steal it. An outsider would not understand. So Anansi made his house look empty and peaceful. He even put a sign outside that said, "Sleep in, do not wake." Then he hid himself in the shadows of his ceiling, among the wooden beams, where his brown spider body could not be seen. And he waited. 3 days passed, and nothing happened. The village guards continued their search. Chief Obio offered a reward of 10 goats and 20 bags of rice to anyone who found the drum. People became more worried as each day went by without the drum. Some families started packing their belongings, ready to leave Kola village if the drum was not found soon. The air felt heavy with fear and sadness. Even the birds seemed to sing less cheerfully. On the 4th night, when the moon was just a thin slice in the sky, Anansi heard something. It was the softest sound, like a mouse walking on leaves. Someone was outside his house. Anansi's eyes gleamed in the darkness, but he did not move. He stayed perfectly still, watching and waiting. The door creaked open slowly. A figure stepped inside, moving carefully in the darkness. The person was carrying a small lamp that gave off a weak, orange light. Anansi's heart beat faster, but he controlled his breathing. He watched as the figure looked around his house, checking to make sure he was truly asleep. The person moved closer to where Anansi had placed a mat on the floor, made to look like someone sleeping under a blanket. The figure relaxed, seeming satisfied that Anansi was indeed resting. Then the person did something that made Anansi very interested. The figure lifted a loose board in Anansi's floor, a board that even Anansi did not know was loose, and began to dig in the earth below. So, thought Anansi, this person has been here before. This person knows my house. This is not a stranger. He watched more carefully now, trying to see the person's face in the dim light. But the figure wore a dark cloth wrapped around the head and face, showing only the eyes. After digging for a few moments, the figure pulled out a wrapped bundle. Even from his hiding place, Anansi could see the colorful beads peeking out from the cloth. It was the sacred drum. The figure held the drum close and whispered, "Soon, very soon, I will be the most powerful person in Kola village. With this drum, I can make people do what I want. They will beg me to bring the rain. They will give me anything I ask for. And Father will see that I am not just his son, but someone who deserves respect and power." Anansi's eyes widened. Father. This thief was someone's son. But whose? Before Anansi could think more about it, the figure wrapped the drum back up and placed it in the hole again, covering it with dirt and replacing the wooden board. "I must wait just a little longer," the figure whispered. "When the village is desperate enough, when they are ready to give anything to get the drum back, then I will appear with it. I will be the hero. I will be greater than my father ever was." Then the figure slipped out of the house as quietly as it had come, disappearing into the night. Anansi waited until he was sure the person was gone. Then he climbed down from the ceiling and looked at the floor. The board appeared normal, just like all the other boards. No one would ever guess that the sacred drum was hidden right there, under his own house. How clever, Anansi said to himself. The thief hid it in someone else's home, so if it was discovered, I would be blamed, not the real thief. And the thief knew I announced I would be sleeping, so this was the perfect time to check on the drum. Anansi's mind worked quickly, putting the pieces together like a puzzle. The next morning, Anansi still pretended to be asleep. He stayed in his house, not coming out even for food. The villagers talked about him. Poor Anansi. Some said, this problem has broken his spirit. Others said, he is just being lazy as usual. But Anansi was doing neither. He was thinking, planning, and preparing for the next time the thief would come. Because he knew the thief would return, greedy people always come back to check on their stolen treasures. Days went by, and the village grew more desperate. The crops started to look dry because the rains had not come. Chief Obio called the villagers together and said, if we do not find the drum by the full moon tomorrow night, I fear we must abandon our village and seek help from the king in the big city. The people cried and held each other. Kola village was their home, their ancestors' home. How could they leave? But without the drum, how could they stay? That night, as Anansi expected, the thief returned. This time, the figure moved faster, with more confidence. The person went straight to the loose board, lifted it, and took out the drum. Anansi watched from the shadows, his body tense and ready. The figure unwrapped the drum partially and ran fingers across the ancient symbols. Tomorrow night, at the full moon, I will pretend to have a dream from the ancestors. I will go into the forest and return with the drum. Everyone will praise me. Everyone will see that I am worthy. Anansi could stay silent no longer. He needed to know who this person was. Quietly, he moved along the ceiling beam, getting closer to where he could see better. The figure shifted, and the lamplight fell on the face. Anansi almost gasped. It was Kofi, the chief's own son. Kofi was a young man of about 20 years, tall like his father but with an angry look in his eyes. The villagers often whispered about Kofi, saying he was jealous that his father gave so much time to the village and so little to him. Now Anansi understood everything. Kofi wanted to prove he was powerful. He wanted the village to need him, to respect him, maybe even to make him chief instead of his father. But he was going about it in a terrible way, hurting everyone he was supposed to protect. Anansi felt sad and angry at the same time. Clever tricks should help people, not hurt them. Intelligence should serve justice, not selfishness. He knew what he had to do. As Kofi wrapped up the drum and prepared to leave, Anansi dropped a single strand of spider silk down from the ceiling. It landed gently on Kofi's shoulder. Kofi felt something and brushed at his shoulder, but the silk was already stuck to his clothing. It was a special silk, one that Anansi had made to glow very faintly in the moonlight. Only someone who knew to look for it would see it. Kofi left the house, completely unaware that he was now marked. The next morning, Anansi finally emerged from his house. He stretched dramatically and announced, "What a wonderful sleep I have had. I feel refreshed and ready to help find our sacred drum." The villagers gathered around him, some happy to see him awake, others skeptical that he could help. Chief Obio approached Anansi with tired eyes. "My friend," said the chief, "we have searched everywhere. The drum is gone, perhaps forever. Tonight is the full moon, and we must make a decision about our village's future." Anansi looked at the chief with sympathy. He wanted to tell him right away about his son, but he knew that would not be wise. If he simply accused Kofi without proof, it would divide the village. Families would take sides. There might even be fighting. No, Anansi needed to be clever. He needed to catch Kofi in a way that would make the truth clear to everyone. "Chief Obio," Anansi said, "I have an idea. Tonight, at the full moon, let us all gather at the baobab tree. I believe the drum will reveal itself." Chief Obio looked puzzled, but he trusted Anansi. "Very well," he said. "We will gather at moonrise." Word spread through the village quickly. Some people felt hopeful for the first time in days. Others thought Anansi was just creating false hope, but everyone agreed to come. They had nothing to lose. As the sun set that evening, families walked toward the baobab tree, carrying lamps and torches. The moon rose, big and round and bright, casting silver light over everything. Chief Obio stood before his people. "We are here because Anansi believes something important will happen tonight," he announced. "Let us wait and watch together." The crowd murmured and shifted. Children held their parents' hands. Elders leaned on walking sticks. And there, standing near his father, was Kofi. Anansi watched him carefully. Kofi looked nervous, his eyes darting around. He kept touching his pocket, as if checking for something. Anansi climbed up the baobab tree where everyone could see him. "People of Kola village," he began in a loud, clear voice, "our sacred drum was stolen by someone who knew its value. This person hid the drum cleverly, waiting for the right moment to return it and be seen as a hero. But this person did not know that I was watching. This person did not know that cleverness can be used against those who use it for selfish reasons." The crowd gasped and began talking excitedly. Chief Obio raised his hand for silence. "Anansi, do you know who the thief is?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. Anansi nodded slowly. "I do, Chief. And I have marked this person with special spider silk that glows in the moonlight. If everyone will look carefully at each other, we will see who among us carries this mark." People immediately began examining each other, looking for any sign of glowing thread. They checked their neighbors' clothes, their hair, their arms. Kofi's face went pale. He tried to back away from the crowd, moving slowly toward the darkness beyond the torchlight. But Anansi had expected this. "Guards," he called out, "please ask everyone to stay in the light. The mark will only show under the moon's rays." The guards moved to circle the crowd, keeping everyone in place. Kofi stopped moving, trapped. His hand went to his shoulder where he had felt something the night before. And there, glowing faintly in the moonlight, was a strand of spider silk, shining like a tiny thread of silver against his dark clothing. One of the children pointed. "Look, it's there, on Kofi." Other people turned to look, and soon everyone could see the glowing mark on the chief's son. Chief Obio's face showed shock, pain, and disbelief all at once. "Kofi," he whispered. "My son." "No, it cannot be." But Kofi's expression told the truth. His face showed anger and shame mixed together. "Yes, father," Kofi said loudly, his voice bitter. "It was me. I took the drum. And do you want to know why? Because no one respects me. They see me only as the chief's son, never as someone important in my own right. I thought if I saved the village, if I brought back the drum like a hero, finally people would see me as worthy." The crowd stood in shocked silence. Chief Obio looked as if he might fall over. He reached out to steady himself against the baobab tree. "But son," he said, his voice breaking, "you hurt our whole village. You made people afraid. You made them suffer. How can this be the path to respect?" Kofi's eyes filled with tears, but his jaw was set stubbornly. "I had to do something, father. You are always busy with everyone else's problems. You never have time for me. You never taught me how to be a leader." Anansi spoke up gently from the tree. "Kofi, your father loves you. But love does not mean giving someone power they have not earned. True respect comes from helping others, not from tricking them. You are clever enough to have stolen the drum and hidden it well. Why not use that cleverness to serve your village instead of yourself?" His words hung in the air like the spider silk, delicate but strong. Kofi stood silent for a long moment. The entire village watched him, waiting to see what he would do. Finally, he reached into his shirt and pulled out a small carved wooden key. "The drum is hidden under a board in Anansi's house," he admitted. "I put it there so that if someone found it, the Anansi would be blamed instead of me. I am sorry, Anansi. I am sorry, father. I am sorry, everyone." His voice grew smaller with each apology.